So Mary Rodwell is a very professional presenter. She's been all over the world presenting at these sort of conferences, and we were very lucky to get her this year because she's actually going to be at another event in America. So if you haven't heard Mary Rodwell for the first time, then this is going to be quite a journey for you. I remember the first time I heard Mary present, it really was quite mind-blowing. I hadn't come across that information before. It was at a Nexus conference, and I was really kind of amazed at the extent of the research that she put together. And on a side note, last year Mary was one of the presenters at Paradigm Shift Summit, and my favourite moment at the Paradigm Shift Summit wasn't actually at the summit itself. It was actually in the car driving Mary to the airport after the event, when Mary told me that my introduction of her was so over the top that she was embarrassed. I actually thought to myself, job well done. I can finish off that event and feel that I've done what I came to do. Alright, so Mary is an author, researcher, hypnotherapist, counsellor. She's an internationally recognised presenter and principal of ACERN. Mary's pioneering research is grounded, practical, and traverses cutting-edge territory in the field of the ET phenomenon and the Star Children. She's recently released her second book, New Human, Awakening to Our Cosmic Heritage. She's appeared in various documentaries, including Oz Files, My Mum Talks to Aliens. Who would have guessed that? And she is basically doing regression sessions. She's published a second book that's just been released, as I said. And she's just a whole lot of awesomeness and is a total pioneer in this field. And she's going to be talking today about the New Human and the Star Children. Please make welcome the Galactic Trailblazer, Mary Rodwell.
No pressure, hey, no pressure at all. Welcome and thank you, Anthony, and your wonderful team once again. I am always blessed to be able to come and share a little bit of my journey, which I hope is going to make sense to all of you. In terms of that, how many of you have not come across my work before? So there's quite a few. Okay, so I'm going to give you some groundwork to start with, just so that I can lead you down the rabbit hole. Okay, because otherwise it's not going to make a lot of sense perhaps, although for some of you I'm sure it will. So I'm going to start off with, if you like, a little bit of an introduction of where I'm going to take you. Because the New Human is saying exactly what I'm talking about. But how do we get to the New Human? How did I come after 20 plus years of research? 3,000 global cases of encounters with non-human intelligences. How did I get to this point where I believe we are changing as a species, and it's not just the children, but the adults that are waking up to this understanding as well. How did I get there? And I'm going to lead you through a very fast run because I haven't got a great deal of time, and everyone that knows me knows that you're going to get blitzed today, but it keeps you awake and you won't get bored. So we'll start off with awaking to our cosmic heritage. So what am I actually talking about there? I'm going to talk about the fact that I believe through a great deal of research that we are genetically intelligently designed by the gods, and I'm going to talk about the gods. I'm going to talk about how each generation in recent years particularly, that's been accelerated, that we have been upgraded by these non-human intelligences. How do we know that, and what is the evidence of that? Space schools, what on earth is that? How do the children understand themselves? How is it these children have this awareness? I'm going to talk about that as well. But I'm starting off with a wonderful young lady who had this amazing insight many years ago, and this was when I first met a young lady, Tracy Taylor, she's in my first book Awakening, who talked about being a starseed. It was a new concept for me because when people first came to see me, it was more about, oh, these aliens are coming and taking me away and they're doing all these things. What she had was a different perspective. It wasn't one of fear, it was one of, I'm one of them. And she explained it like this. One night I had this intense feeling before sleep. I wrote in a process where I had little control. something beyond my present understanding. It was contrary to everything I'd been taught. Now that's the important bit here. Contrary to everything she'd ever been taught. I wonder how many of you in this audience get information contrary to everything you've been educated into. It said the human race had been created by extraterrestrials. It contained information about genetic manipulation of human EtDNA to create another species. Now that is incredibly strange for a young lady to get this kind of information. And of course from that time I've come across this information many, many times. For those of you that have looked into this whole understanding and phenomena of bright lights in the sky, UFOs, they're not unidentified at all, of course. Many of them know that they're coming from other places, both physically and interdimensionally. But cave drawings, why those primitive peoples drawing UFOs on caves? Well, I don't believe it's symbolic. I believe they're drawing what they see. And of course, we've got the Wandjina, which is the wonderful image of one of the beings that many people see. So let's go on. Lots of different shape sizes of UFOs coming through different dimensions as well as physically. This particular gentleman has taken pictures of all of these. Everywhere you look now, people are taking on their iPhone. Every 6 minutes around the globe, somebody's taking a picture of a UFO. So they're here. And what is really interesting is how we interpret that. Now, for those within a spiritual metaphysical lens, they may see these as the gods or ascended masters or angelic realm, spirits. They may interpret all of these as if you like, the gods. But are they? Are they gods? Or are they merely advanced technologies that have been interpreted over the hundreds of years and interpreted as gods because of their technology? What you're seeing here is a picture of a telephant that a client of mine drew, one of the beings that she'd seen, and we look at Lord Ganesha. To me, what do you think of that? And that's a being that she sees now. But of course in India, that's Lord Ganesha. What have we got here? Krishna. And I love this one because look at what you've got here. You've got something that looks suspiciously like a UFO and a blue being, and this lovely 9-year-old drawing of her friend, her special friend, Imoke, who is one of her guides and her teachers, and this young lady lives in Northern Europe. My point is that we've got to perhaps update the way that we're looking at this whole phenomena in modern vernacular rather than the vernacular of the old times. But the gods, have they been here? Well, we're getting more and more evidence, even though there's been a truth embargo, as many of you probably know, on all of our heritage and who we are. And what's interesting now is there are many skulls being shown that initially were supposedly, according to the archaeologists and anthropologists, they were binding that the indigenous tribes did to their children and to their own skulls. But what they have found, though, is that there were skulls where, in fact, the fetus also had the same shaped skull. So we've got, there's some in the Nazca lines now that have been found, a skeleton or mummy called Maria that has 3 fingers, 3 toes. They're still deciding whether or not this is another species. But DNA tests on famous Paracas skulls, thousands of years old, contain genetic material unknown in any human, primate or animal. So that's one aspect of it, and I'm throwing out a lot of little bits here for you to decide whether you want to explore it more or not. There is so much more, and I would need a day to go through it with you. So just keep that in mind. Now, some of you will know Dr. Francis Crick. He was co-founder of the DNA molecule. He also wrote the book Life Itself. One of the statements he made at that time was, for life to form by chance is mathematically, virtually impossible. One of the things he said was, the immensity of complex coded, precisely sequenced information is staggering. The DNA evidence speaks of intelligent information bearing design. Now notice what he's saying here. They program the molecules so that when we reached a certain level of intelligence, we would be able to access their information, and they could therefore teach us about ourselves. Isn't that interesting? When we reach a certain level, and this is where I'm taking you. One of the fascinating things that Tracy Taylor has told me, and many others since her, abilities such as telepathy, manipulation of time and space, non-verbal communication are all conscious abilities of the new children and are quite natural. The ability to access memory is enhanced, and they often have photographic memories and extremely fast motor neuron responses. Their molecular structure allows their cells to vibrate faster. Everything is accelerated, including the immune responses. Their DNA is encoded to recognize all foreign organisms. So we're talking about an upgraded human. So what is the evidence of that? Interestingly, medical researchers in the University of California in Los Angeles found young children exhibit unique patterning. They have 24 active codons that show remarkable resistance to disease with heightened immune systems. Tested for diseases, appear to be immune to everything. So what we're hearing here is something is going on, and even science, you know, the more conventional science is finding that there's something strange happening with us as a species. Now, Dr. Lena Olson is a molecular biologist, someone who writes about the DNA, her own understanding about these upgrades. And what she's saying is this: the information of the donors and their background is there, hidden key, and like PC programmers, they hide their work. The key can be activated, and these programmers know the person is ready to be contacted. The activated ones spread a signal to wake each other's up. Those that were here listening to Dr. Marie Batchelor will know this connects to what she was talking about. I feel, she says, they're speeding this up. So, what's actually going on here? Hyper-ET communication, for those of you that have communication telepathically. It should be borne in mind the nature of extraterrestrial and interdimensional communication, that in a majority of instances, star visitors communicate with humans by telepathic transfer of mental images and concepts rather than by words and speech. Everything is made up of the same matter, resonating at different harmonics. So the ETs are able to communicate with us, directing thought on subatomic levels, and so activate the subconscious. These symbols are meant to communicate the nature of the macrocosm. How many of you find yourself perhaps drawing symbols or finding yourself manifesting unusual artwork, for example? So the ways they're waking us up are multidimensional in nature. So we're looking at physical contact. So you may wake up with marks on the body or whatever, being aware you might be taken on a spacecraft, but you may have out-of-body experiences, downloads of compressed data, and I will talk about that, dreams where you feel something real is going on, music frequencies, art, star languages, codes, crop circles, all of those are part of this. And this young man that you're seeing the codes here is a young man of 17, 18 now who knows he's from somewhere else. He's from Arcturus. So is it happening everywhere? Yes, it is. Here's a really interesting case here of a female farmer began to speak and paint with a universal language he'd never painted before. And some of them are complicated, like star maps. I'm only going to show you a brief clip of this. So this is happening all over the world. She's describing some of the images. Alien language, you notice. You can see all over, big drawings. So some are doing these unusual artwork and scripts and what have you by the unicursal method. Now let me explain what that means. What unicursal method, if you have a look at the drawings, look how complex they are. Some of them look like star maps and what have you. The unicursal process is expressed, it's done through one movement through the whole drawing. The drawing is at the finishing point, always begins at the beginning of the drawing, so they do not take the pen off the paper. This is done in an altered state for some, but some don't feel that they've lost any conscious memory of what they're doing. For many people manifesting these after their experiences, that's fascinating. So why are they doing it? Here, 12-year-old boy in China. Look at this incredibly unusual artwork. So what is it? What's going on here? Information embedded comes from somewhere else. This is a gentleman in Canada that has done some of these drawings. This is the one that started it all. That's the red one there. I was going through a transformation and sitting at the kitchen table, then bang, altered state, and this is flying out of me, and it's the tree of life. Now, another gentleman looked at this, who is an Asperger's, and I'm going to say why this is crucial to our understanding of the new human. And he's saying it's deeper than that. At first it would appear as an energy wave form within the quantum substrata of the universe, condensing into a reality of some sort, into another planet by arrangement expressed. I see multiple DNA helixes that appear to be expressed as consciousness via the eyes within the part of the energy. So there are people on this planet that can decode these kinds of images or understand what they're conveying multidimensionally. This is all part of contact. I feel I'm in a school of higher intelligences that are instructing and teaching me. It's almost like a thesis, a work in progress. It's opened my mind to bigger picture, which includes biology, neurology, physics, astronomy, astrophysics, theology, philosophy, spirituality, technology, anthropology and archaeology. I feel I'm in a school of higher intelligence and they're instructing and teaching me. This is more of it. More of what she's actually drawing. I've seen some of her artwork and it is mind-blowing. The top picture, one of my clients looked at it and said, that's where I come from, that's my home. Which is fascinating that it was recognized by somebody who had no idea where this came from. It's opened my mind, as she said, to all these different areas of understanding. But it's all very well maybe the person themselves understanding it, but what about others? Well, there are decoders. Terry Mace, a psychotherapist in the UK, I was showing some of this artwork and he burst into tears, and I thought it was because he realized that he was having experiences, but no. What happened to him was this. I understood on multiple levels what it meant, what its potential was for humanity. Group consciousness, codes, ciphers, signs, forms, geometric formula, blueprints, designs, models, encryptions, meta-languages, hieroglyphics, schematics. An internal Rosetta Stone was turned on. An intergalactic process I could understand on a conscious and superconscious level. Notice this bit. Something I'd been trained to do. So where was he trained in? I was a code breaker, able to interpret encrypted codes, received, downloaded, and activated by the artwork. And when you look at this, when you are ready, and even if you're not aware that you're ready, this will make a difference to you on some level. But it's not just the adults that are decoders and are able to decode this. This was fascinating for me. This is a young man in the US, dyslexic. His mother had looked at all these wonderful artwork from Tracy Taylor and asked her son and her daughter. Her daughter was 4 and her son was 7. And for both of them, she didn't say anything about the artwork other than, what do you think of the pretty picture? Both of them, the 4-year-old said, oh, they're from the aliens. But the 7-year-old went on. They contain information about aliens. The pictures contain images of harvesters of energy, machines which harvest the sun's energy. There are different types. Other pictures contain information about the aliens. One is about the 7 who will be coming. There are eagle people and cat and lion people. They have ancient messages. Now, this is a 7-year-old that's never been exposed. There's more information on that in my book. But what I want to show you something now. The music coming through creative people that have had these experiences has frequencies in it. And one of them is a fascinating story of an 11-year-old whose mother got in touch with me, and he's an Asperger's, ADHD, who brings in music from the ETs he calls songs. And at no time did Arthur practice them. He named each song before playing it, though he knew what was coming next. Now I'm going to play you just a little bit of this one, which is called Decoding DNA. These songs I need to give to the people to wake them up. Now what and how does a child have an understanding like that? But I was intrigued. I hadn't come across it before. Fortunately, I know a musician, a celebrated musician in America, has written a book, One Life, Many Worlds. She had her contacts in post-war Japan. She's not only a wonderful violinist, she's also brought in artwork, which she's never been trained, but brings in these art frequencies as well. And this is what she was saying about her experiences when she heard Arthur's songs. I believe Arthur's contacted by aliens or master musical spirits. It's amazing composition, it's genius. My alien experiences happened in childhood too and went far beyond. When I was overtaken by the entity, I felt something similar to what Arthur was saying. I received amazing power, but I was left drained and crashed, and as a result, I could not go to school. Arthur explains the same process. He's always exhausted after this experience. But what's intriguing is this. In China, this lady here, she dreamt of a person playing some kind of instrument above the clouds. The name of the music is Please Welcome, My Friend. When she woke up, she wanted to play the piano, but didn't have one. At a friend's house, she was surprised she could play the piano this way. Now have a listen. Never played piano before. All of a sudden, she needs to play the frequencies. I'm sure you're joining the dots. I found it fascinating. But I've got a lot to show you, so I'm going to keep going. DNA is not just controlled by the biocontainer, your physical body, but mind and soul. The growth and function of the biocontainer, called the body, is partly controlled through the DNA, a crystalline formation with an encoded message. DNA is just a responder to different frequencies coming through the cell via different types of material. The frequencies are from many origins. They travel through the body and hit the DNA like fingers hit the keys of a piano. The biocontainer is just one of three parts. The other two are mind and soul. So this is what I'm talking about, is that we are being influenced by all these frequencies that Dr. Marie Batchelor talked about, and many others are being aware that they're bringing in the frequencies. Now I'm going to show you another way the frequencies come in. This is a film that's going to be available, Gods Among Us, in October. I'm in the film, and so are two of those that are in my book, Zach and Antonio, and I'm going to show you a little clip in a minute. It's a feature-length film which is looking at the science behind contact, and that is really important, that we understand from a 3D perspective how we can start to understand our multidimensional cells. So here you've got it. You've got a lovely young man called Zach to start with, and I'm going to show you this.
Elo amana e sala am at elo ala onkish susumma e dala elo lo tu ki shesea elo asa osa e tamana e kuleate su shese e mono tu kiawa art e sunno etu et ula kisesa ese sala tu shesan. It doesn't exactly translate into English. The key to this language is that it's not transmitting data verbally through the mind, it's transmitting images through the voice. And dolphins do the same thing. Dolphins can transmit pictures to each other of what they're seeing through sonar.
There have been times where I have spoken a language that is very representative of a particular civilization or a particular group of beings, and when I would speak it, they would be there on the other side, listening and sending back information.
Can you give a message that you feel is important in the star language? That's you.
Yeah, right. We'll try this again.
One of the cases that was interesting to me was the mother wrote to me saying that her daughter had reacted daughter said, but I can speak those languages too. And she said to her mother, there's three of them, but one of them heals water. When I speak of water, I can purify the water. And the mother told me that the water actually tasted differently. So what's going on? What's happening here? And a lot of you will know Masaru Emoto, that wonderful Japanese scientist that was showing how frequencies change the nature of water itself through different programs, language, prayer, music, all these different ways we can reprogram water. This is the young girl I was talking about that said, her mother wrote to me saying that some of those languages you've shown on your presentation, my daughter said she knows them. This is what the mother told me. In my first pregnancy, a voice told me my children are not mine. My 9-year-old daughter gets important messages in ET languages and has helpers who guide and teach her. And the young lady I call Kathy says, my guide's Imoko is blue, she has no hair, or ears, her human eyes are bigger, the green being is male, my friends are here all the time, it's dangerous to come and help here because memories can be deleted at birth or by education and drugs. The star language is from a place outside of the universe. The healing words in ET languages heal water. So I'm leading you into something that will explain more of where we're going with this. The activated human. Now you can be activated by seeing a UFO, not realizing that as you're seeing that there may be a download, there may even be a pickup, because time isn't the same when you go up on the craft. You can be up there for 2 days and it's only half an hour here. So that's the first thing you need to know. That could be very well a download when you've seen a UFO. Near-death experiences, 40% of those we surveyed had their non-human interactions with these intelligences after their near-death experience. Shamanic experience is another way that you touch into that realm where you can interact with non-human intelligences. Out-of-body experiences, profound emotional traumas, Kundalini awakening. So, is it a modern-day shamanic wake-up call? I believe it is. Contact demonstrates many significant parallels between shamanic experiences and the encounter phenomena. Healing abilities, communication with non-human intelligences, telepathic abilities, changes in perception, speaking in unusual languages or mantras. But first, we have to transcend our fear. Basically, at the start, I misunderstood the Greys. The knowing ET part of me initially made a decision to assist them, and understanding of this can be overshadowed by fear, which stems from our limited human perceptions and reactions to these experiences. So, we're looking at many ways you can wake up or be activated through near-death experiences, out-of-body, perceiving spirits, healing experiences. It may be something like that. You may suddenly find yourself having past life recall, being aware that you come from somewhere else, finding you've got abilities, mind influencing. But the important thing here is that what we've surveyed is 85% ultimately have a psycho-spiritual transformation, where their lifestyle, the way they look at the world, everything changes for them. And they may also express it through script, art, star languages, music and frequencies. Dr. Batchelor did a wonderful, wonderful presentation this morning and gave you a real sense of how this can happen. And for her, it was mind-blowing and galactic. And as she's saying here, now my healing work embodies high frequencies to remove blocks of DNA level, releasing, activating dormant DNA from old programs and conditioning. Now what is fantastic here is that this is what we're finding, that there are many getting activated and finding they have healing abilities, and also actually activating the DNA. And if I have time, I'll tell you about a little boy of 8 who saw the DNA changing, and I'll explain that if I have time. So star kids, the new human. There's a race of beings on this planet increasing in number, although visually and physically indistinguishable to most humans. They're the bringers of light. They're here to guide the awakening of terrestrial consciousness. They're born without programs and will bring about a global awakening. Tracy told me this in the late 90s. So, is it happening? It's not so simple as foreign DNA. It's a combination of genetically improved bodies in combination with souls from different places in our universe, incarnating in improved bodies. This is the upgrades with the children. The souls have different frequencies, vibrations, depending on their evolutionary status that plays a role in activation of the DNA in a particular body. And we have to take into account the collective soul of Homo sapiens. So this is Dr. Olson's understanding of the new. For those who coming from a ufological perspective, Dr. Roger Lear was well known because he took implants, which, you know, he was showing that there are implants in certain people after experiences. But the other interest a lot of people didn't know was he was aware of the star children. And he says this: the rapid advancement of the human species is due to alien intervention in our bodies and mind. I've not only come to the conclusion there are not only star children among us, but the entire human race is being advanced forward at a rate that is unlikely to be due to slow evolutionary forces. This was also borne out by Dr. William Brown, who in 2010 I had several communications with him. An amazing gentleman, another one like Dr. Olson, molecular biologist, and this is what he's saying. The exponential increase in autistic ADD indigo children have new genetic architecture which allows them to see the world in a multidimensional fashion. I believe research would show dormant genetic regions are being reintegrated into the biological systems occurring in all of us to produce expanded awareness. Their brains work faster, they have access to more information in the beginning. In the classroom, learning is much faster than normal. They know what is being taught, and they also know what they're being taught, often as not, is not very good. And I'll explain what I mean. I was going to say something rude there, but I won't. I'll behave myself. You all know what I was really going to say because you're all telepathic. Okay. I believe they know what's being taught. Okay. So what we're looking at here is transgenerational information. Okay. And it's in the atomic structure of the DNA. The information is encoded and it can be accessed more efficiently to produce savant-like characteristics. I believe they are accessing the Akashic record of sorts within the DNA molecule. As the efficiency of our DNA increases, more of this information will be available. So we're talking about, you know, parts of us, our DNA that is not switched on, if you like. The hybrids, he say, are altogether a different species. Now I'm going to talk about the hybrids as well. But first of all, let's look at a gentleman in his middle years now, who I met in Hong Kong, and he explained to me something really interesting. He said, as a child, he said, I always saw reality differently. I didn't find out till I was in my 50s. They would diagnose me now as ADHD. But look at how he interprets it. Always dialed into higher dimensions. And this is how he looks at the universe in his book, Close Encounters of the ADHD Kind. The universe is a multiverse with many dimensions that we're aware of. My book is about what happened in my extra-dimensional world where I met the beings of light. Being symptomatic of ADHD, I am not limited to the square template of the universe. I'm wired to the multidimensional universe. My internet browser can browse into chaos, be it on Earth or the multiverse. I can perceive hidden layers of order and make sense of it. Most folks without a supercharged browser cannot do this. They are focused towards conventional reality. There's your clue. There's your clue, and there's more to come. So what is the new human? Homo noeticus, the letter people. Superior mental and analytical capabilities, direct connection to higher awareness, extreme sensitivity to thought and emotion. I wonder how many of you resonate with that. Enhanced DNA, photographic memories, fast motor neuron responses, and able to manipulate time and space, as well as non-verbal communication. So let's look at the letter people, as Dr. Olson calls them, because she believes she's one of them. She's saying this. Now we're looking at ADHD, Asperger's, dyslexia, some forms of autism. There may be some others that are considered dysfunctions, but we won't go there right now. I do not believe these are broken genes, but are offering new multidimensional skills to prevent limited reprogramming of a third dimensional reality, and I concur with that very much with my research. We're talking about above normal sensory cells for pressure on her skin. As a scientist, she's tested this. Here's sound frequencies above and below normal range. Aware of minute differences in shades of color and normal range. Taste and smell are enhanced. Sensitive to all frequencies and can feel overwhelmed at times by sensory overload. Sensitivity to radioactive radiation, energy fields, energies beaming out of angry people, as well as love and happiness. So there gives you some idea of the sensitivities of the new human. I am sure there are many in this room that get that. Exponential rise in letter people in autism. Look at this. Incredible, isn't it? 1975, 1 in 5,000. Now, 2017, 1 in 45. I know, that's quite something, isn't it? Just think about that. Just think about that. So, what is the connection? I'm not necessarily talking about those that have been damaged into autism for other reasons, and I know you know what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about certain types of autism that they are born with. Now, what I found was fascinating, the marker for an extraordinary human. One type of autism is Asperger's. They have high IQ, artistic, musical, mathematical genius, and this is two experts on autism. One of them is Sandra Dorzeger, and she's a Bachelor of Science degree, doctorate in psychology, 2 master's degrees in psychology. And what she has discovered is this: we believe autism is a marker for something extraordinary happening in human species, a consciousness shift, an emergence of children with extraordinary gifts. And she's talking about a pigment intolerance with some of them, which you can actually help them actually get to a more balanced space. There's the book there. But what is fascinating is that Sandra finally admitted that she's a lifelong experiencer of extraterrestrial intelligence, and as a child she experienced being taken on light ships, and contact taught her about her knowledge of autism and Morgellons disease. So it was all downloaded. This is how we're being helped. So Asperger's, look at the difference in the brains. Asperger's brain, look at the normal brain. What does that tell you? That image, by the way, that beautiful painting is from a gentleman in England. He calls himself an Aspie. He said, your work, and this is from his email, your work of late totally astounded me. I have the same sensitivities you explain in your talks and wanted to talk to me more. I'm left-handed but can read text upside down, even backwards. I get compulsion to speak in a tongue which I'm not familiar with but comes naturally. I always felt different. My eyes change colour at 5 years old. There's something to do with that as well. Heal faster than most people. I'm precognitive. I've had 3 near-death experiences. Drawing and art when time dissolves. Sense presences. Hear more sounds. See a greater spectrum of colour. Connect with animals. This is just one gentleman with Asperger's. Look at what he's displaying. And the hybrids. Now what is this about the hybrids? And that's fascinating in itself. Meet the Hybrids is a book by Miguel Mondoka and Barbara Lamb. One of the ladies in it was a lady I met in the UK a couple of years ago now. And she's amazing. She sees herself as part human, part reptilian, but she prefers the reptilian part. She's not too keen on the human part. Maybe I can understand that, really. And she's saying this about the hybrid program. There are various reasons for the hybrid program. They differ depending on species and if they're involved with the military. Now that's another, if I get a chance to cover it, I'll cover it, but it might be difficult in this time. I believe one purpose for the creation of hybrids is a bridge divide between ETs and humans, taking positive attributes from each race for certain purposes such as healing, higher intelligence, stronger spiritual connection, and so forth. That's her understanding of her hybrid nature. But let's look at what Zach, that wonderful young man you first saw in that little clip. Zach saying this: I was told I was hybridized for expressing the human genome. There are many different agendas on this planet and each species has their own programs. What I've been told about the hybridization is that it's to expedite the evolution of humanity. It's not hybridizing us by replacing our DNA with theirs. It's not like that. We already have their DNA in our bodies. They are activating it through frequency and light manipulation. The consciousness that we're vibrating at is the attributes we'll take on. So if someone's strongly connecting to Arcturians, they will take on Arcturian attributes. So if someone says to you, I feel I'm Pleiadian, they are expressing the Pleiadian attributes in their DNA frequency. So this is giving us an idea of how we understand our hybrid nature. There's a lot more, but I'm going to keep this brief. To be a hybrid is to be awakened. Okay, so this is what's really important. So the new human and hybrids are really the same. Yes, but the hybrids are expressing their consciousness through their DNA. The hybrids are part of the new human archetypes we're evolving into. The labels don't matter. The humans are evolving. Our DNA is advancing and will express it in any way possible that's contained in our DNA. They're scalar imprinted memories of other beings in our DNA that's passed through, and we express it in the new human template. So this is how, when he was 16, he's now 18 I think, he was explaining this to me. So he was saying we can express it in such as an indigo crystal. So these are other names, but I believe we're really actually talking about the same thing. 12 new groups of human. Dr. Olson, if my information is correct, there will be 12 different main groups of new DNA people. It corresponds to 12 different main groups of ET alien DNA donors, so 9 more to go is the way that she understands it. And our DNA is activated mainly by remote control and frequencies, so it's like putting a virus in software computer program. And when they're using their DNA, as long as they're alive, they will give off an energy pattern that spreads to their surroundings, almost like flu or a GMO genes, which contaminate via frequency patterns. So everyone in this room that has interacted with one another in this particular forum now, that's been exposed to some of these new frequencies. So you will not only feel different, you will feel it on every level. That's how it works, which is absolutely fascinating. The new human. I like the term the new human. Zach was telling me it fits because we're going into something that's new for us, but what we know we are. We're only seen as different because of a preconceived idea of what normal is. So we come up with labels: crystal child, indigo child, rainbow child. It's not describing the person, but the person's expression of self. The indigo child is a warrior personality to break down the system that is wrong and needs to change. Crystalline child has the aura of love and peace, healer, the medium bringing in the sight. The rainbow child has the energy of the creator, leader, kingship personality. It's a vibrational difference. It's a term humans are only using because we have a limited understanding of what's going on. So let's start looking at what the new children, the generations coming in without the programs. Tracy Taylor, my contact with non-human cosmic races occurred since before I was born. These beings were my family before I came to the Earth domain. I had a close relationship with them, and this continued after my birth. Many accounts I get from mothers that talk about this extraterrestrial communication before they had the special child. Before I became pregnant with my now 10-week-old son, a tall, wispy, long-fingered ET told me that the male child in my body would be gifted. So this is how it comes in with some people. I came through a portal in the sun, this 10-year-old in England explained to me. They're born with memories of their previous lives, what they did, their connection to their present parents, etc., etc. Past lives and other planets. A 4-year-old in Canada said this to her mother: I came from the Crystal Kingdom, far away from here. No one's ever hungry or sad. She said, it's wonderful, our special friends are there, and they aren't really special because everyone's special, that friend there. She told me that everyone lived in a giant crystal building and it was clear like quartz. She picked up quartz to show me what she meant. She described living in a jungle world with other cat people. How many parents, though, listen when their children tell them this? I was a light physicist on Orion. I worked on time travel technology. My closest to my scientific understanding on Earth is the work of Nikola Tesla. And Nikola Tesla is interesting, you know, because he was vegetarian. He used to get a lot of his technology via visions and a few other things as well. Look up Nikola Tesla. Conscious past life recall. I came from Andromeda. This is Peter. Notice ADHD again. His recall at 5 years old, I came from Andromeda. My mother had blue skin, the language was thought forms with a telepathy. He said his father told me he claims to see through other people's eyes. And he asked me what I was doing at work once because he could see the computer screen and couldn't work out what actually I was doing. He says he can read other people's minds at times and it can be scary. Well, quite honestly, I can imagine that. The soul connection, reincarnation. Now look at the ages here. Now these are children often under 10. They don't read books on this. They don't watch talk shows on this. And this is a lovely lady who lives in Queensland. And this is what she heard from her grandson. My grandson sweetly buried a Christmas beetle, placing 3 evenly spaced sticks on a little grave, announced that this would allow the beetle to leave and to travel into space and reincarnate in another animal of its choosing. I asked him how he knew this. He screwed up his face and said, He doesn't know how he knows. He just knows things. And then later on camera, he said an angel told him. He said, we have been on heaps of planets together. I commented, well, I wasn't sure if I liked the one we picked this time. He replied, oh no, Granny, this is a great planet. It's the only one that has mixed species on it. Look at the age. We call them my special friends. My son described the mantis as big bugs. He thinks they're really funny looking. He also described lion beings that come to him. He calls baby lion is there to keep him safe. My children have beautiful understanding of our ET friends. They're aware they're taken aboard craft and have a sense of loving familiarity with the beings that visit them. Notice the son is 3 and the daughter's just 4. Boriska, some of you may have come across over the years. He was well known they called him the Indigo Boy from Mars. Where I'm going to take you now is a little bit more down the rabbit hole, because Boriska talked about his life on Mars, its inhabitants, flights to other planets including Lemuria, on planet Earth. And Boriska said there's knowledge under the pyramids and the Lemurians were 9 meters tall. Now this is where we start getting into what you're not told about our history. So, we also have bases on the moon. When I started to look into what the children were telling me, where they're being taken and shown the moon, I was told by a number of children that the moon is artificial, that there are beings under the surface, and there's also beings under the surface on Mars because they get taken there. One of the interesting things here is this gentleman from witness testimony, military, he's got top secret crypto clearance, worked on Tactical Air Command Langley Air Force Base, and he wrote this while working at NASA, never a straight answer, facility, witnessed photographs taken by lunar orbiter, and detailed artificial structures of domes, mushroom-shaped buildings and towers. These were on the moon, and they were airbrushed out. I remember going home thinking, I can't wait to hear about this on the evening news, and here we are 30 years later. Nada. Wonder why. Space school. So what goes on in the craft? We hear about taking genetic material, we talk about the fact that they go up on the craft, but there is so much more the children can tell us, and adults that have conscious memory. One of them, very well known in ufology, is Whitley Strieber, who wrote the book The Secret Score, and in fact he was vilified for it for quite some time because nobody could believe that he was going and being taught by non-human intelligences. Remembering the journey outside of time was another step. 9 lessons involve manipulation of time, because learning how to use time as a tool is the key to reaching higher consciousness and a real relationship with the beings. Really important. This is going to help us understand. But how young are they? This one was at 3 or 4 years old. Your website came as a revelation. I never had heard of anyone having alien classes as a child. It's been a blessing and a curse all my life. I remember being given physics classes at the age of 3 or 4 in a classroom of children of similar age. I remember the details well and have an avid interest in physics ever since. He goes on to, it was crazy because he just thought it was him. Taught in school by extraterrestrials. My 3-year-old son complained and said, "Mummy, I don't go to school. I already went to school." I was at school with my special friends and I asked him, when was he at school? He said, "Today, night time. I got back now." I asked him what the school looked like and he said he had a small class and a boy was teaching them, but the boy had really big black eyes and white clothes. "Did you have any good dreams last night?" "Yes, Mum, I finished magic school." "What did you learn?" "Everything, mostly science. I learned about space and gravity. Time controls all. Time controls everything, time controls all. My son says that a white light comes through his window and suddenly he's there at the school. Here's another one. My daughter has no fear. A boy, a special friend who walks through the window. It doesn't matter if the window is open or closed. He just comes in when we're in our bunk beds. "And why did he come to see you?" "He's telling me all about your baby. It's a baby, boy baby, and it will come in your tummy soon. He, the being, comes at night. He's telling me all about space, outer space. I woke up in the night and I thought I heard footsteps. Then I went back to sleep. I thought it was you, Mum and Dad. But I saw a white foot and I said, 'Don't be afraid, I'm a nice person. I'm sorry I scared you.' I said that so the being wouldn't be afraid of me." Here's another one. The taller green alien standing on Mars in front of the dome. There is the domes on Mars. interesting, isn't it, when they feel they're being taken and shown other planets. So many fascinating things the children come out with. This alien's important in the alien community because he's very different to the greys. The grey ones don't need clothes because of their species of aliens. The green one's rare, it doesn't talk at all. The grey ones talk all the time. The domes on Mars are black or white. There's a lot more than this. I'm just giving you a taster of some of the information the children's come out with. They only took you, Mummy. My special friend said I had to stay home. My 4-year-old daughter told me she loves going to spaceships and looking at the stars. She tells me she loves them and often wants to go home. She speaks casually about her special friends. They come at night time. They look grey, I guess. Some are shorter than me. Some are taller than me. They use their mind to talk to us. Friends are really tickly on their body, and they play with me and take me places. The awareness. Auras. My daughter's 6 and has mentioned she can see emotions as colours when people speak. It comes out of their mouths, she said. And she said, when I'm angry, it's a different colour than when I'm happy. We're not surprised about that. Orbs, I think they're spirits. This is the children again, talking about all the orbs they see. Both my daughters see orbs all the time. One daughter sees them and feels them. She told me it did not hurt, but startled her. And what she sees, so many orbs at times, they look like multicoloured raindrops. I think they may be similar to orbs I see on a daily basis enter her. I think they're spirits, and my daughters agree. So the children are seeing so much more, but a lot of the time they won't tell you unless they feel you're open enough to it. So what's the cosmic syllabus? This is just a little bit, I think, of what they're being taught. Quantum physics, the holographic nature of the universe, awareness and connection to all sentient life, taught levitation off-world, understanding of spatial geometry of thought, how to operate multidimensionally states of consciousness, how to communicate, interpret, interact with interdimensional and other non-human intelligences, out-of-body training, multidimensional ecology, manifestation, directed thought and emotion, healing skills, the true history of man's origins, and much more, just to give you an overview. So why are we struggling here? The school's programs you out of your light. A 9-year-old was explaining to me why she didn't like going to school. There's nothing good about the system. The children are programmed and the teachers just push the keys. School programs are like a virus. It extinguishes the light we have inside us and we lose access to our information we had in the beginning. That's her understanding of present 3D education. What's interesting is a teacher. This beautiful teacher wrote to me in New Zealand, and she said this: as the children are being more creative and out of the box, so too do the teachers need to keep up with them. These are the teachers that are awake to the new children. I can tell you now, a room full of star kids versus one super 3D teacher, and the teacher will always lose. Slowly the children are asking for music in all they do. Time for meditation, yes, something I promote in my teaching. Time outdoors and time to explore their own passions. I'm delighted by this. This is what's happening with these children. Now this young lad, he's only 5 years old. His mother found him sitting like this with the crystals. She said this to me: I've never taught my son meditation, but my son placed a pyramid and crystals in a configuration in front of him. He said that each corner of the pyramid represented specific feelings. He placed a clear quartz crystal ball on the point of the pyramid and said it represents love, and said that that is what he was focusing on during his meditation. 5 years old. A message to his teachers, but will they listen? You teach in a linear fashion, but I think in spirals. In school they try to teach us in this straight line when I think in a spiral. I don't have a problem with the world has a problem with me. There is nothing they can teach me I don't already know. These are the children that are incarnating and have been incarnating. Look at Juan Antonio, that lovely gentleman, young man should I say, that I showed you the clip of, speaking the language. This was what he did for a school project. What do you think his teachers made of that? This model of technology is resonating on pure light and sound with crystalline generators to increase the vibratory level of the physical world by crystals around the pyramid. He stated those in the pyramid could project the vibration of those inside the pyramid and send it around the globe. This is a 15-year-old doing a project for conventional school. School's a waste of time, it makes me feel sick. A teenager wrote to me and said it made her feel ill. I went to school today and I felt sick. I can't do it anymore. I just feel like no one is helping me at school, no one's teaching me, and no one is awake except for my friends, and they don't seem awake enough to feel as sick as I am. So she's actually talking about so many others. How many of you get your children saying, don't want to go back to school, don't want to be there? Why? Because they're different. My grandson, who's now 6, is finding it increasingly hard to integrate at school. He's a very honest little boy and wears his heart on his sleeve. He's frustrated with the other kids when they don't understand what he says, accuse him of lying when he tells them about reincarnation and alien life on other planets. He's absolutely perplexed that they don't know such things. I survived 3D education. Now this is a teacher who's written a new curriculum for the Star Kids. I feel I was lucky enough not to have the light sucked out of me in our current educational system. However, I have seen many extraordinary children and young adults fail who are bright and unconventional. She's noticing. I've noticed more of these star people in my courses. I've seen a variety of negative coping mechanisms that break my heart. Apart from the official diagnosis of Asperger's, dyslexia, autism, I've had students that were so sensitive that the pressure of university led them to self-harm. So what we're looking at here is understanding the new human. Schools will have to rethink their curricula if they want to remain relevant. Children who receive instantaneous information downloads are guided by the other human beings that are not going to be satisfied with schools that are designed according to the 19th century factory model. The old schools were geared towards creating homogenized beings, while the new schools need to accommodate the children that are aware of their multidimensional essence. Only awareness is educatable. So what we're looking at, I'm going to show you a very brief clip of something called extraocular vision that's being taught in Mexico for 25 years. There are different types of teaching this now. One of the ladies that I'm going to show you actually came to Agnes Warder and taught a number of small children, the ages from 6 to 12, how to do this. So let me show you what she's saying about this new way of teaching children. They are blindfolded with special goggles, and they see with their light.
Hi everybody.
Can we have it louder? A little bit louder?
And here today to talk to you about EOB. And EOB to me is so busy work that I do in all my years of healing, and just the most rewarding and miraculous.
Because they're not going to hear it. It needs to be as loud as you can.
Have you got volume on the video there?
Sorry?
Do you have volume on your actual video?
I'm probably not on here, but on. Oh, that's better.
Which is a process
That's better.
of seeing without the use
Excellent.
of one's physical eyes. And EOB, I would like to mention, is the life work of Noe Esperon. He is the originator of EOB. He originated in Mexico, where he is from, and he's been doing that work there with children.
I just want to show you.
Now, I'm going to draw a picture live, and then you describe what it is that I draw.
What she's doing is getting her to see without her physical eyes. And she will describe what she's seeing here. And read as well. She will actually tell her what she's drawing here. I'm going to move on because it's not making a good sound. I won't show you this because I haven't got the time. But this is in Australia. This is a young girl outside. It's awful feedback now. What this young girl is doing in this 6-minute video, and I will show you the links if you want to see it, she's actually colouring with these goggles on. She then reads. It's still feedback going on. Can we turn it down? Okay. So what I'm saying is we can teach our children or assist them to use what they will call their third eye or their light. And I've got some wonderful, if I've got time to show you, I'll show you. But what I also want to show you is a young man of 9-year-old, Ben, and he's talking about how he can see through with his eyes closed, see through other people, go out of body to protect other people from negative beings, and advice when you're sad. Now listen to how he describes. The mother got in touch with me. She said he does clearings. He has had entities where he's cleared them. He goes and he tells me he goes out of body at night, and if the children are having nightmares or being attacked by anything that isn't loving, then he deals with it. But just look at how this gorgeous young man talks about what he can do.
My name is Ben. I am 9 years old, and I am good at what I can do. One of my abilities is to see with my eyes closed, and the other one is to see through other people, and the other one is to go out of my body to protect other people from demons. And here is some advice to other sad people like me. If you ever feel sad and you want to stop feeling sad, just think the happy thought, but for around 15 minutes, and leave shorter than that. And this is advice to everybody. And shorter than that, you will feel sad again, and you'll want that more. But if you do it for like 15 minutes, it will kind of stop you from feeling sad. Then you'll have that thought in your mind, and if you do that when you wake up, you'll feel all energized for the day. And that's how I feel. I just get about sleep and go, oh, I'm so tired. You just go and think about a happy.
Now, there's more there. Okay, 5 minutes. I'm going to have to get my finger out. Here we go. I want you to see this other little bit, how I connect to my real home. And this is how he's, and I'm going to have to be really quick now. What he's saying is here is, and you've seen him now, how I connect to home. I use my spiritual mind. Although some people in my spiritual home do not exist anymore, I can still connect through the spirit. So I talk through spirit. I do not talk through human, as I do to another person like, hello, how are you, in my mind. I speak in my spiritual language. And he speaks in his own language, which his mother said that he'd been doing right from a small child. He spoke with a language to her, with movements. She would speak back to him in the same language, but he could interpret it and she couldn't. That's how she explained it to me. I would say it through my soul, basically not to hear me say it. I do it through my mind and soul mixed together, and I can talk to other souls exactly like mine, and that's how I connect to my real home. But this is not my home. I have a home here, but I have a home where I really belong, and that's how I connect to my home, is how it explains it. So there's healing from extraterrestrials. One of the interesting things here, the mother's saying, I've seen beings dropping symbols of energy into our bodies, and on one occasion witnessing a small black triangular healing device on the bed towards my son's side. So some are able to perceive all of this now, and I'm going to have to go really fast now. My parents and I live in two different worlds. She's another one that says I'm a hybrid. She's 16 years old. She lives in Spain, and she said my star origins are Andromeda and Arcturus. So the teenagers also are awake to who they are. Starseed, the definition means to me that all awakened humans, mostly referring to also awakened to the ET reality, can be starseeds. So what ultimately is going on? We're upgrading, or at least our children are upgrades. The older models, as I call myself, for example. So what about us? But what is actually going on if we are all upgrading and the children are bringing in the higher frequencies, and as we wake up, we're receptive to those frequencies? So what is happening? So what is this new earth that everyone talks about? My understanding, says Zach, is that it's a new earth, but it's not necessarily new. We're just moving into a new vibration, but to us it's new. It's been there a long time. It's been waiting for our arrival. Gaia's already at the destination she wishes to be. She's waiting for us to move with her. She's moving into a higher frequency, a collection of similar frequencies. And then so I said, so what the children are saying is that we're awakened, we'll be able to move more with Gaia to this other plane of awareness and reality. Zach is saying yes, but we're not necessarily moving with her, just moving space around us to get to her, because she's in one position and we're in another position which exists in the same space. That is how he's talking about it. So the consciousness shift. A 12-year-old explained it like this to me. He said this: it's due to the shift that's affecting everyone. It's the starseeds and the indigos of the planet like us. Gaia cherishes us because we can help the vibration of the planet more than any others. So these are the children of our future, and they are assisting us to join them in that future. So what does it mean? The new human is here, and it's going to be you. Human beings have no idea how amazing they are, but they have to believe it first. Kathy, 9 years old. Thank you very much.